Before we go through to the next explanation, let us see the definition of apologies first. According to Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy (IEP), an apology may be defined as the act of declaring one's regret, remorse, or sorrow for having insulted, felt, injured, harmed, or wronged another. However, norms for apologizing vary widely across different cultures. People in an individualistic culture tend to regard apologies as analytical statements that assess blame, while those in a collectivistic culture view apologies as a means of expressing remorse. Through this presentation, we will look deeper about the apologies from Western and Eastern culture.
Now we are going to discuss about how Westerners usually apologize. The first one, if one person did a mistake, he or she is the one who will be responsible for that, not the family or other person. The second one, they are usually very direct, explicit, and emphasize on spontaneity. The third one, since they are low context culture, words are the primary carriers of meaning. Other aspects like face expressions, intonation, and gestures are not as primary as words. The last one, they provide explanations when apologizing. They admit what they did wrong. Now we jump to the Western culture values. The first one is individualism. Why they can be like that? It first became known as a philosophy in the early 19th century, following the American Revolution and Declaration of Independence, a statement of extreme individualism. Since that time, people in Western have the principle to be independent and self-reliant. The second one is liberal. In this context, it means that Western people are not strict to the traditional value in doing apologize. Usually, some countries in Asia have strict traditional values to apologize to someone. The third one is assertiveness. Being assertive means able to stand up for your own or other people's rights in a calm and positive way, without being either aggressive or being passive. Assertive individuals are able to get their point across without upsetting others or becoming upset themselves. An assertive apology includes the implication or direct statement that you will change to become better and not do the same mistake again. And the last one is low context culture. Low context culture relies on explicit communication. In low context communication, more of the information in a message is spelled out and defined.
Eastern context. The first value is collectivism. Collectivism is a value that holds the harmony in each community, focusing on the things that will work the best to everyone. In this value, social rules focus on promoting selflessness and putting the community needs ahead of individual needs, and working as a group and supporting others is essential. Identity is based on the social system, and the individual is emotionally dependent on family, institutions, and affiliations, and individual trust group decisions. It is generally believed that Asians tend to be more aware of the connections they have as a member of their social groups, and therefore they tend to be more conscious of the consequences of their actions on their members of their social groups. Those who hold on to this value in apology context, the attitude that they will show is what is the best for both parties, focusing on the things that will work the best for everyone. This shows that people will make sure of how others will feel well treated. The next value is conservative. So conservative emphasize the social relation, traditional ethics, and cohesive family. So the greater emphasis on common goals over individual pursuits. Apologies are critical for resolving disputes and repairing trust between negotiators. In this negotiation, both parties will build the relation. The next value is interpersonal harmony. Interpersonal harmony is a value in Eastern culture, and it is about how people must place themselves in various relationships. In this value, people must discipline themselves to avoid conflicts. This value makes sure that the solidarity among others in community looks harmonious. So in apology context, both parties will necessarily work for the things and solutions that avoids conflicts and confrontations. The next value is high context. In his book, Beyond Culture, Hall stated that high context cultures communication is largely implicit. The Eastern culture likely to use flowery language or gestures and elaborates their words and includes detailed information to make others feel comfortable. In apology context, they preferred way of solving problems and learning in groups. So, the background of apology system in Asian driven by these cultural values. In this context, people who hold these values more likely to apologize in wider range. People in Asian, for example, willing to be responsible and to take blame for things that actually they did not do. The people will apologize often and likely to apologize in actions that they were not involved. Yet this happens to maintain the bonding and relations in group. For example, parents will apologize when their children made mistakes. And the second one, in Indonesian culture, people likely to say sorry for an actions, which sometimes they are not the one who guilty.
We see there are different perspectives of what is an apology from Western and Eastern culture. So here we conclude some points to see the factor of these differences. First, individualism and collectivism. As we know, Western culture applied individualism. Individualism is the root of low context culture or communication and assertiveness. This one package is applied in the Western community. On the other side, high context culture or communication and interpersonal harmony are rooted in the collectivism culture. This culture is applied in the Eastern community. We see the context in rising apology from Western and Eastern culture are different. As we learn that Eastern people are willing to apologize for something they themselves did not do. On the other hand, Western people are willing to apologize for something they themselves did only. Secondly, we have low context and high context culture or communication. This culture, especially in communication, also affect the frequency in rising apology. Eastern people tend to feel sorry more often rather than Western people. Rather than telling the main topic in conversation, Eastern people tend to build conversation wider by using outer context, including an apology. Lastly, we have assertiveness and interpersonal harmony. We learned from the previous clips, Western people are more willing to take the blame for something they themselves did. It comes from assertiveness culture, or closely to firmness. Eastern people are more willing to take the blame for something they themselves did not do, because they are more thinking about others' feeling. Like our previous clip about someone's foot got hit by someone, Or for another example, like someone is willing to take the blame for his or her partner's mistakes. Therefore, from this analysis of cultures about apologies, hopefully we can be wiser in facing cultural differences. We know each culture gives good values based on its context, and we also avoid cultural conflict by not to think that our culture is the best one.